Welcome back to Fiction Flux. Today, we're kicking off a brand new fanfic. What if Saitama teleported to My Hero Academia and trained Deku to become the most powerful hero? Imagine a world where Deku doesn't just inherit one for all but also gets trained by the man who defeated everything with one punch. How strong would he become? How would the story change? Let's not waste any time and jump right into it. One day, Saitama woke up in a completely different world. He wasn't sure how it happened. One moment, he was shopping for groceries. The next, a weird-looking portal sucked him in, and suddenly, he was standing in the middle of a futuristic city filled with people using weird powers. Huh, he muttered. Did I take a wrong turn? People walked past him, barely paying attention. No one recognized him. No one knew who he was. Saitama scratched his bald head. Guess I'll just go find a sale first. And that was how the strongest hero in history ended up in a world where quirks were everything, and he was just a random bald guy. One day, as he was browsing a grocery store, inspecting a pack of leeks on sale, a green-haired kid with a notebook approached him. "Excuse me, sir, are you a hero?" Saitama glanced at him. The kid looked like he'd been crying for hours. Yeah, I guess so." The kid's eyes sparkled. "Can you train me?" Saitama blinked. "Why? I want to be the strongest hero." Saitama sighed. "Kid, being strong isn't all that great. It gets boring. I don't care. Please, teach me." Saitama stared at him for a moment. He remembered what it felt like to be weak. To be helpless. He saw that same desperation in this kid's eyes. "All right," he said. "But be warned, this training is insane." Izuku grinned. "I'll do it." And so, the nightmare began. 100 push-ups. 100 sit-ups. 100 squats. 10 kilometers running. Every single day. At first, Izuku thought he was going to die. His body ached. His muscles screamed. His bones felt like they were turning into dust. But Saitama didn't let up. "Get up, nerd. Heroes don't get breaks." A year passed. Izuku's body had changed. He no longer felt pain. No longer felt exhaustion. His punches shattered entire trees. His jumps took him over buildings. One day, he sneezed, and a villain in the distance exploded. "Oops," Izuku muttered. The time came for the UA entrance exam. As soon as the gates opened, Izuku casually walked in while others rushed forward. A robot lunged at him. Izuku raised his hand, lightly tapped it. Boom. The thing exploded into scrap metal. The other examinees froze. Did he just punch the air? Izuku didn't stop. He flicked his finger at another robot. Boom. Another explosion. Present Mike's jaw dropped. Aizawa. Are we sure this kid is quirkless? Aizawa adjusted his goggles. I don't think it matters anymore. Then came the zero-pointer. Everyone panicked. Students ran in terror. Izuku yawned. Pulled back his fist. One punch. The giant robot disintegrated into dust. Silence. All Might, watching from the observation room, dropped his drink. What in the actual hell? Meanwhile, Saitama was at home, casually playing video games. Wonder how the nerd's doing. At UA, Izuku quickly became the strongest. Stronger than All Might. Stronger than any villain. But with great strength came great problems. His classmates were terrified of him. Bakugo, his childhood bully, refused to even look at him. "Deku, fight me," Bakugo shouted one day. Izuku raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "Yeah." A light slap sent Bakugo flying into the next district. Oops. The sports festival. A joke. Obstacle course. Izuku took one step and crossed the finish line. Cavalry battle. He stood still, and no one dared approach him. One-on-one. Fights. Over in seconds. Todoroki tried using his ice. Izuku sneezed. The entire stadium froze over. Shoto stared at the glacier. What was that?" "Sorry, allergies," Izuku replied. His strength was undeniable, but it also made life boring. Villains stopped attacking the city. Shigaraki appeared once, ready to fight. Izuku sneezed. Shigaraki disintegrated into dust. Oops. Even All for One himself came out of hiding, saw Izuku, and immediately turned around. Nope. Not worth it. One day, Izuku sat beside Saitama, sighing. "Sensei, I don't feel anything anymore." Saitama looked at him. "Yeah, that happens." Izuku frowned. "How do you deal with it?" Saitama stared at the sky. Find something worth protecting. Someone worth fighting for. Izuku thought about it. The next day, the world saw something new. A green blur raced through the streets. Izuku had found his new challenge. A girlfriend. And thus, the strongest hero faced his greatest enemy yet. Love. Izuku Midoriya, the strongest being in existence, had defeated every villain, shattered every record, and rendered every battle meaningless. But now, he had encountered a challenge unlike any before. Dating. It started when Mina Ishido, always the fearless one, casually asked, "Hey, Midoriya, you ever had a girlfriend?" Izuku, who had crushed gods with a flick of his wrist, blinked. No. Mina gasped. Wait, seriously? You've never even been on a date? He scratched his head. I mean, I never thought about it. Mina grinned like a villain. Oh, this is gonna be fun. And so, without warning, Class 1A made it their mission to set up the strongest hero on a date. Step 1. The outfit. Mina dragged Izuku to a clothing store. Alright, we need something stylish, she said, grabbing a leather jacket. Something cool. Izuku stared at it. But my jumpsuit works fine. Mina shook her head. Nope. No more jumpsuits. We need, date night, energy. Half an hour later, Izuku stood in front of the mirror wearing an all-black outfit, tight-fitting shirt, slim pants, and a sleek jacket. Momo, passing by, did a double take. Midoriya, you actually look good. Wait, what does that mean? It means you looked like a nerd before, Bakugo muttered, still bitter about being launched into the next district. Step 2. The practice date. Ochako Uraraka, being one of the most normal people in class, was chosen for a test run. They sat across from each other at a fancy cafe. So, Midoriya, Uraraka started, what do you like to do in your free time? Izuku thought for a moment. Train, eat, train some more, silence. Uraraka forced a laugh. Haha, that's nice. Mina facepalmed from a nearby table. We need to fix his personality. Kirishima nodded. He's too powerful. We gotta make him relatable. The next few days became a nightmare training arc, this time, for social skills. Mina taught him how to flirt. Alright, say something smooth. Izuku frowned. Your quirk is, very functional. Mina groaned. No. You gotta make it sound cool. Try again. Izuku cleared his throat. Your quirk is like the stars. Bright, beautiful, and full of energy. Mina blinked. Wait, that was actually kinda good. Zero leaned over. Did he just accidentally riz? His strength must have evolved into verbal combat, Kaminari whispered in awe. Step 3. The actual date. With enough training, the time came for the real test. Momo Yaoyorozu, elegant and refined, had agreed to go on a date with him. Izuku, dressed in his new outfit, met Momo at a fancy restaurant. He was determined. He had trained for this. The waiter came. Your order, sir. Izuku nodded. I'll take 50 plates of steak. Momo nearly choked on her water. F50. I have a high metabolism, Izuku said, completely serious. Momo sighed, realizing this was going to be a long night. Despite that, things went surprisingly well. Izuku had learned to keep the conversation flowing, and Momo found herself enjoying his company. Halfway through the meal, a villain burst through the wall. Mwahaha. Prepare to. Izuku flicked a crumb at him. Boom. The villain was launched into the next city. Momo sighed. You could have at least let me take him down first. Oops. By the end of the night, as they walked under the city lights, Momo looked at him curiously. You know, I had fun, she admitted. Izuku smiled. Me too. She hesitated, then leaned in slightly. For the first time in his life, Izuku Midoriya, the strongest being in existence, felt his heart race. And just like that, he had finally found his ultimate challenge. Not villains, not strength, but love. The moment was perfect. The city lights reflected in Momo's eyes, a soft breeze passed between them, and for the first time in his life, Izuku felt nervous. He had punched through mountains. He had sneezed away villains. But now, his heart was pounding like he was about to face a final boss. Momo glanced at him expectantly. Izuku, completely unsure what to do, did what his training taught him. He panicked. You wanna spar? Momo blinked. Excuse me. Izuku, realizing his mistake, tried to backtrack. I mean, not right now. Or, maybe, unless you, Momo chuckled, shaking her head. Midoriya, you really are something else. She gave him a small smile, turned around, and started walking back home. Izuku stood there, watching her leave, feeling something strange. It wasn't the usual excitement of getting stronger. It wasn't even the rush of victory. It was something new. Something scary. And just like that, he had a new goal, figuring out what the hell love was supposed to be. The next day, Class 1A. As soon as Izuku stepped into the classroom, every single head turned toward him. Mina slammed her hands on the desk. Well, Izuku tilted his head. What? Kirishima leaned forward. Dude, did you mess it up? Bakugo growled. TCH, probably. Dumbass doesn't know how to talk to girls. I think it went fine. Izuku said. Mina narrowed her eyes. Fine. Izuku scratched his head. We ate dinner, talked, I might have offered to spar instead of. The entire class groaned. Oh my god, Juro muttered, covering her face. You challenged her to a fight. Kaminari yelled. It's not my fault. My brain shut down. Izuku defended himself. Mina sighed dramatically. Alright, looks like we're entering phase 2. Izuku blinked. Wait, there's a phase 2. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Saitama sat on his couch, flipping through TV channels, utterly bored. This world's kinda dull, he muttered. No real monsters. Just dudes with weird quirks. He picked up his phone and texted Izuku. Saitama. Yo, you find anything interesting to do yet? A few seconds later, Izuku responded. Izuku. Yes, I think I like a girl. Saitama stared at the message for a solid minute. Well, damn, he muttered. This is gonna be hilarious. He cracked his knuckles. Guess it's time for some real training. Because if there was one thing Saitama had never mastered, it was romance. And now, both master and student were about to enter their most difficult battle yet, understanding women. The next day, Saitama casually strolled into UA, hands in his pockets. Nobody stopped him. Nobody recognized him. Even Nezu, the smartest being in Japan, glanced at him once and thought, probably a janitor. Saitama found Izuku sitting in the common room, surrounded by his classmates. Mina was giving a lecture on how not to be a dense protagonist 101. So let me get this straight, Saitama said, interrupting. You punched a robot into space, made every villain retire, and now you're struggling to talk to a girl. Izuku sighed. It's harder than it looks, sensei. Saitama raised an eyebrow. You just talk to her. Simple. Kaminari leaned forward. Yeah, and when's the last time you talked to a girl? Saitama opened his mouth, then closed it. Mina smirked. Exactly. Saitama coughed into his fist. Alright, new training regime. No punches, no kicks. You're gonna learn social interaction. Izuku's eyes widened. You mean? Yes, Saitama said grimly. You're going shopping with me. The room went silent. Zero whispered, the One Punch Man is taking him, shopping. Bakugo burst out laughing. Oh, this I gotta see. Phase 2, the art of casual conversation. Saitama led Izuku through a crowded shopping mall. People barely glanced at them, even as Izuku accidentally cracked the floor with each step. Alright, kid, Saitama said, stopping in front of a clothing store. Talk to the cashier. Ask for a discount. Izuku frowned. Why? Because, Saitama said, negotiation is key in relationships. You gotta learn to handle rejection without breaking the building. Izuku hesitated, then walked up to the counter. Excuse me, he said. Is there any way I could get a discount on this jacket? The cashier barely looked at him. No. Izuku felt an unfamiliar pressure in his chest. Was this defeat? Saitama patted his shoulder. Get used to it, kid. Phase 3, the ultimate challenge. Saitama decided to raise the stakes. He signed Izuku up for something far worse than battle, speed dating. Izuku sat at a small table, nervously tapping his fingers. Across from him sat a random girl, smiling politely. So, she said, what do you do for fun? I train, Izuku replied. And eat. And train more. The girl blinked. Oh, okay. Any hobbies? Izuku thought for a moment. Punching. The girl stared. The timer buzzed. She left. Another girl sat down. Hi. What's your dream? To be the strongest hero, Izuku said confidently. Oh, like All Might. Izuku frowned. Who's that? The entire room gasped. Saitama facepalmed from the corner. This is worse than I thought. By the time the session ended, Izuku had racked up exactly 0 successful dates. I don't get it, he muttered. I'm strong, I'm reliable, I save people. Why is this harder than fighting? Saitama shrugged. Because punching problems is easy. Talking to people isn't. Izuku groaned. Maybe I should just focus on hero work. Saitama smirked. Nah, you've already won every fight. This is a real challenge. Izuku stared at his sensei. For the first time in a long time, he felt motivated. Not to train, not to fight, but to figure out how to actually talk to people without terrifying them. A few days passed, and Izuku continued his training. It was a struggle, but he was slowly getting better. He no longer made people run away mid-conversation, and Mina even admitted he was 20% less hopeless. Progress. But things took a turn when a new villain appeared in Musutafu. Unlike the usual weaklings, this guy called himself Doomfist and actually had the power to back up his name. With a quirk that increased his strength with every hit he landed, he was tearing through heroes like they were made of paper. Izuku and Saitama arrived at the scene, watching as Endeavor crashed through a building, groaning in pain. Doomfist laughed. Is this really Japan's top hero? Pathetic. Saitama yawned. Alright, kid, you got this. Izuku nodded, stepping forward. He cracked his knuckles, and the ground trembled beneath him. The air around him distorted, and for the first time, Doomfist hesitated. You're the so-called strongest hero, huh? Doomfist smirked, masking his nerves. Let's see how strong you really are. He charged forward, throwing a punch with enough force to level a building. Izuku didn't move. He simply raised his fist and met the attack head-on. The moment their fists connected, a shockwave erupted, shattering windows for miles. The street cracked open, cars flipped over, and even the clouds above scattered. But only one person remained standing. Doomfist was frozen in place, eyes wide with shock. His arm was shaking uncontrollably. Then, with a slow, eerie creak, his bones shattered. He screamed as he was sent flying through multiple buildings before finally crashing into the mountains outside the city. Unconscious. Defeated. The pro-heroes stared in stunned silence. Saitama nodded. Alright, not bad. Izuku dusted off his hands. Too easy. As the media rushed in, snapping pictures and interviewing heroes, Izuku turned to his teacher. I think I get it now, he said. Saitama raised an eyebrow. Get what? Fighting is fun, but I wanna be more than just strong. I wanna live. Actually experience things instead of just winning all the time. Saitama smirked. Hey, took you long enough. Before Izuku could respond, a familiar voice called out. Midoriya. He turned to see Momo running toward him, concern in her eyes. You're okay, right? She asked, looking him over. Izuku scratched the back of his head. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. Momo sighed. You say that after leveling half a city. He chuckled awkwardly. Sorry. She shook her head, then did something unexpected. She grabbed his hand. Izuku tensed up. He had fought gods. But this was scarier. You did amazing, she said softly. But you don't always have to do everything alone, you know. Izuku stared at her, heart pounding. Saitama, watching from the side, smirked. Well, my job here is done. He turned to leave. Wait, Izuku called out. Where are you going? Saitama waved a hand. You don't need me anymore, kid. You're already the strongest. Izuku felt a pang of sadness but nodded. Thanks, sensei. With that, Saitama walked off into the sunset, hands in his pockets, humming a random tune. And Izuku. He turned back to his classmates, his friends, his future. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just thinking about being the strongest. He was thinking about what came after. Months passed. Izuku had become the undisputed strongest hero, and crime rates had plummeted. Villains had all but given up. Even the League of Villains had gone quiet. It was too peaceful. That's why when the first city fell, everyone was caught off guard. It started with a blackout. Then, reports of people vanishing. By the time the heroes arrived, the city was already a wasteland. Buildings crumbled to dust, and the air was thick with decay. At the center of the destruction stood Tamura Shigaraki. But he was different. No longer the twitchy, unstable villain Izuku had fought before. His body was reinforced, his presence overwhelming. His very existence seemed to erode the world around him. All for One had experimented on him, fusing his decaying quirk with multiple abilities. The result? A being that could erase anything just by existing. His decay no longer needed touch. It spread through the air, eating away at everything. The heroes attacked. They failed. Endeavor's flames evaporated before reaching him. Hawks lost his wings mid-air. Best Jeanist's fibers crumbled to nothing. One by one, the top heroes fell. Then, Shigaraki spoke. "Where's Midoriya?" Izuku arrived moments later. He saw the destruction, the fallen heroes, and Shigaraki standing in the center like a king. "You've been holding back, haven't you?" Shigaraki grinned, voice distorted. "This world is weak. It's about time someone broke it completely." Izuku didn't respond. He simply clenched his fists. The air around him grew heavy. The clouds twisted, darkening the sky. For the first time since his training with Saitama, he got serious. The ground beneath him shattered as he vanished. In an instant, he was in front of Shigaraki, fist already moving. But before his punch could land, Shigaraki's body warped. His form split into multiple afterimages, his decay spreading faster than light. Izuku barely dodged, feeling the edge of his sleeve disintegrate. Shigaraki smirked. Too slow. He swiped a hand, and the very air collapsed. Izuku jumped back just in time to see the space he had been standing in vanish. This wasn't just decay anymore. Shigaraki was erasing existence itself. Izuku narrowed his eyes. No more holding back. With a single breath, he activated his full power. His body glowed with raw energy, his every movement causing shockwaves. The sky above split apart, revealing the void of space. Shigaraki lunged. Izuku met him head-on. The first punch shattered reality itself. The shockwave ripped through the atmosphere, causing the ocean to rise and mountains to collapse. Cities far away felt the tremor as the two titans clashed. Shigaraki laughed, his form regenerating instantly. "Yes, this is what I wanted. Show me the true power of a god." Izuku's eyes burned with determination. "I'm not a god. I'm just a guy who trained too hard." Then, he threw the punch. A punch so strong it didn't just break bones, it broke concepts. The force ripped through Shigaraki's body, tearing through his very essence. His decay quirk tried to fight back, but it was useless. Izuku had surpassed destruction itself. For a moment, Shigaraki's face twisted in realization. He wasn't the strongest. He never was. And then, with a final burst of light, he was gone. The battlefield was silent. The world was safe. Izuku took a deep breath, lowering his fist. This fight was over. But something told him, there would always be another. The battlefield was silent. Dust settled, and the air, once thick with decay, was now still. The world had just witnessed the end of its most dangerous villain. Izuku stood in the middle of the devastation, his body barely scratched, but his mind, exhausted. He had never felt this kind of weight before. He turned, scanning the area. The city, what was left of it, was in ruins. The pro-heroes lay scattered, some injured, others unconscious. But they were alive. He had saved them. A weak voice called out. "Midoriya." It was All Might. The former symbol of peace was kneeling, staring at the scene before him with wide, disbelieving eyes. You did it." Izuku swallowed hard. "Yeah, but at what cost?" All Might put a hand on his shoulder. "You saved millions. You stopped something beyond human comprehension. If you hadn't been here," his voice wavered, "there wouldn't be a world left." Izuku nodded but said nothing. His hands were still clenched. Something felt off. Then, a whisper. Faint, almost non-existent, but it sent chills down his spine. "Did you think it was over?" Izuku's body tensed. He spun around. Nothing. Just the empty wasteland where Shigaraki had stood. But then, the sky cracked. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't a natural disaster. It was reality itself breaking apart. All Might staggered back. What is that?" Izuku's eyes widened as he realized the truth. Shigaraki was gone, but All for One's will wasn't. Something far worse had been set in motion. And then, from the abyss of the shattered sky, it emerged. A shape, a presence, something beyond quirks, beyond power itself. The final battle wasn't over. It had only just begun. The air turned heavy, thick with an overwhelming pressure. Izuku had felt strong enemies before, but this was something else. A twisted, shifting mass of shadows and energy loomed above them, stretching across the sky like a black hole given form. It didn't have a clear shape, just a writhing, ever-changing mass, with countless glowing red eyes blinking in and out of existence. All Might staggered back, his breath shaky. Midoriya, what is that? Izuku's fists tightened. It's not Shigaraki anymore. This is something else. Something worse. Then it spoke. You took my vessel, so I made something better. The voice was everywhere and nowhere, echoing across the ruined city. It wasn't just all for one, it was more. Something deeper, something ancient, something that shouldn't exist in this world. Izuku had no time to react before the entity moved. It didn't just attack, it consumed. The sky warped, buildings disintegrated, and everything around them started to collapse into nothingness. Heroes scrambled, trying to escape, but it was useless. Izuku gritted his teeth. I won't let you destroy this world. The entity laughed. Destroy? No, I am simply evolving it. Tendrils of darkness shot toward Izuku at speeds faster than light. He barely dodged, flipping backward as the ground where he stood ceased to exist. This wasn't decay. It wasn't a quirk. It was erasure. Izuku exhaled slowly, clenching his fists. Fine, let's see if you can evolve past a punch. He vanished. One moment he was standing there, the next he was in front of the entity, fist drawn back. The sheer force of his movement shattered the remaining buildings, sending shockwaves across the city. Then he threw everything into a single punch. The impact tore through space itself, rupturing the sky, splitting the very concept of reality apart. The entity screamed, a sound that had never been heard before. The shockwave traveled across the planet, shaking mountains, parting oceans, and even shifting the moon slightly. For a moment, everything froze. Then, silence. The entity twitched. It wasn't regenerating. It wasn't moving. It was breaking. Its massive form started to collapse, its countless red eyes blinking out one by one. Its voice, once so loud, now nothing but a whisper. Impossible. Izuku's eyes burned with determination. Go back to whatever nightmare you crawled out of. With one final burst of energy, he threw the last punch. The entity ceased to exist. The sky returned to normal. The destruction stopped spreading. The world was safe. Izuku exhaled, lowering his fist. His body felt light, too light. He looked down. His arms were flickering. His entire being was unstable. That's when he realized. He hadn't just punched through the entity. He had punched through reality itself. And now, reality was rejecting him. Izuku's vision blurred. The world around him flickered like a glitching screen. His body felt wrong. He tried to take a step forward, but his foot barely touched the ground before it phased through. His fingers flickered, shifting between solid and translucent. All Might rushed toward him. Midoriya, what's happening to you? Izuku swallowed hard. I think I broke something I shouldn't have. A deep, unsettling feeling settled in his chest. It wasn't just his body. His very existence was unraveling. The last punch, it hadn't just erased the entity. It had damaged the fabric of reality itself. A cold realization hit him. I might not be able to stay here anymore. All Might's eyes widened. No, there has to be a way to fix this. Other heroes were arriving now. Uraraka, Bakugo, Todoroki, all of them looking at him with growing horror. Uraraka shook her head. Deku, we can find a way to stop this, right? Izuku smiled, but it was bittersweet. I don't think I can punch my way out of this one. Bakugo clenched his fists. Hell no, nerd. You're not just gonna disappear after everything. Izuku chuckled. You'd finally get to be the strongest, huh? Bakugo's eyes burned with frustration. Shut up. That's not, his voice cracked. That's not how this is supposed to end, damn it. But deep down, they all knew. The fight was won. The world was saved. But Izuku was fading. His body became more transparent. The wind blew straight through him now. His voice felt distant, like it was coming from far away. All Might stepped forward, his hand trembling. Midoriya, I'm so proud of you. Izuku smiled. Thanks, sensei. Then, finally, he turned to the sky. His vision blurred one last time. His body felt light, lighter than ever before. And then, he was gone. The world stood still. For a long time, no one spoke. No one moved. Then, Uraraka fell to her knees, silent tears streaming down her face. Bakugo stood there, fists clenched so hard they bled. Todoroki exhaled shakily, looking up at the sky. All Might closed his eyes, letting the weight of everything settle in. Izuku Midoriya, the strongest hero in history, had saved the world. But he had paid the ultimate price. Yet, somewhere, in a place beyond time and space, a single voice echoed, "Huh, why am I in space?" And then, a bald man in a yellow suit sighed. Saitama scratched his head. Oh great, another student. Izuku blinked. His body felt weightless, as if he were floating in an endless void. He looked around, but there was nothing, just an infinite expanse of white. Then, a familiar, uninterested voice spoke. Man, first, I get thrown into a new world, and now my student ends up here too. What a pain. Izuku turned and saw Saitama, standing there with his usual blank expression. Sensei. Saitama sighed. Yeah, looks like you punched reality a little too hard, huh? Izuku panicked. Wait, what happened? Did I die? Saitama rubbed his chin. Kinda. But not really. You're in between. In between, what? Saitama pointed to the space around them. Between worlds, I guess. Happened to me too when I first got teleported to your world. Except, I just ignored it and walked out. Izuku stared at him. You walked out? Yeah, thought it was a dream or something. Just kept moving forward until I ended up in that my hero place. Izuku wanted to question the logic of that, but then again, it was Saitama. He had long stopped trying to make sense of how his master worked. So, what do I do? How do I get back? Saitama shrugged. Beats me. But if I had to guess, just punch reality again. Izuku hesitated. That's how I got here. Yeah, but maybe you just didn't punch in the right direction, Saitama said, as if that was the most obvious thing in the world. Izuku took a deep breath. Alright, here goes nothing. He pulled his fist back. The air around him trembled. The very fabric of the void rippled. Then, with everything he had left, he punched. Reality shattered. A blinding light engulfed everything. For a moment, there was nothing but pure energy, like the entire universe had reset. Then, wind rushed past Izuku's face. The scent of ash and earth filled his lungs. He hit the ground hard, rolling across what felt like solid stone. He groaned, slowly opening his eyes. He was back, but something was wrong. The sky was dark, covered in thick red clouds. The city was different, taller, more futuristic, but damaged. Fires raged in the distance. Skyscrapers stood half destroyed. Everything felt off. Izuku pushed himself up, his heart racing. This wasn't the world he had left. Then, a voice echoed behind him. Hey, who the hell are you? Izuku spun around, only to see a group of people wearing strange, high-tech hero suits. Their eyes widened when they saw him. No way, one of them whispered. Another stepped forward, a young man with glowing cybernetic arms. That suit, that face, you're Izuku Midoriya. Izuku blinked. Yeah, do I know you? The group exchanged shocked looks. But that's impossible. Izuku frowned. Why? The cybernetic hero swallowed hard. Because Izuku Midoriya died 100 years ago. Izuku's breath hitched. 100 years. That wasn't possible. He had just been fighting, minutes ago? Hours. No, something was wrong. His mind raced as he looked around. The ruins, the red sky, the advanced technology, it all felt too different. That's not possible, he said, shaking his head. The cybernetic hero took a cautious step forward. Listen, I don't know what kind of trick this is, but the real Izuku Midoriya has been dead for a century. His legend is in every history book. No way you're him. Izuku clenched his fists. His body felt fine, strong, even. But the air was different, like the entire world had shifted into something unrecognizable. Where am I? He asked, his voice low. The hero hesitated before answering. You're in Neo-Japan, the last standing hero city. Izuku's blood ran cold. Last. The group exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, a girl with metallic wings, whispered, You really don't know, do you? The cybernetic hero sighed. If you're really him, then you deserve to know the truth. He pointed to the sky, where something massive loomed in the distance, a colossal structure floating above the ruins, surrounded by dark energy. The world changed after you disappeared. The villains won. Izuku's stomach dropped. The hero clenched his fists. And the one who leads them now, the one who wiped out nearly all the heroes. He took a deep breath before saying the name. The Demon King, Bakugo Katsuki. Izuku's heart stopped. Bakugo. Impossible. His mind screamed for answers, but there was no time. A massive explosion shook the city. Sirens blared. The heroes around him tensed. They found us. We need to go, now. Izuku turned toward the destruction. From the smoke, shadowy figures emerged, powerful, monstrous, unlike anything he had ever seen. This wasn't just a different time. This was a nightmare, and he was right in the middle of it. That's it for part 1, guys. Hope you liked this fanfiction. Let's set a like target of 30. I know you'll complete it. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.